Welcome back, Irish Breakdown Nation. We've got some breaking news out of Notre Dame. Obviously, center Jarrett Patterson is done for the season. So the question remains, what are we going to see when Notre Dame lines up against North Carolina on Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving? So we've got, what do we got, 9 days, 9 days until that takes place. So, what is it going to look like? I believe there's probably 2 to 3 different options, I
Yeah.
think, that Notre Dame can go with. I guess I'll ask you 2 questions, Brian. Number one, let's outline the options.
hmm
Okay. Number one, what would you do? And number two, what do you think Notre Dame is going to do?
Yeah, I'm going to go kind of reverse and talk about the two options that
Okay.
I think Notre Dame is going to consider and what I
Okay.
think they'll go with. I think the two options for Notre Dame to consider are, number one is just putting Zeke Correll in the starting lineup. He's the backup
That's the
center.
easiest one, right?
He's a talented young player. He's a redshirt freshman, which is the same grade that Jarrett Patterson was when he took over the starting lineup. I think he played well. I went back and watched the film against Pitt. Thought he did a solid job. He had one really hard, aggressive blitz where he kind of got knocked back, but that was about it. I thought he played well. Talented kid, top 100 recruit. So, he is sort of part of your future. So if they feel he's physically capable of holding up and if he's mentally able to make enough calls and checks and handle himself that way, I think that's an option. I think the other option is, and I think this is the direction I would imagine that they're going to go at least in the first couple of practices, is moving Josh Lugg into center. He's considered the sixth man. He is a guy that has played some center in practice in the past. And I could see them doing that. I think if Josh Lugg plays well in practice, they'll make that move full time. I would not make that move personally because I think that, number one, is a former 6-foot quarterback. I don't mind a 6'7" tackle. I don't even mind a 6'7" guard. I do not want a 6'7" center, even in the shotgun.
Yeah, sure. No, that makes a lot of sense.
So that's just reality. And I don't know if Josh Lugg has the temperament to be a center, which involves line calls and line games, and it requires a level of patience and poise that I don't know if he has. Zeke Correll, if he's physically ready to go, if he's mentally able to handle himself, I would insert him as long as he's got to play well in practice. If he goes and snaps 8 balls over Ian Book's head the first 2 days, you got a game to win, right?
Sure.
But as long as he handles himself, that's the direction that I would go of those two options. And then I would maybe have Tommy Kramer say, "Hey, Tommy, you're his bodyguard, basically. If he makes a call that isn't right, you correct him and you fix the call."
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Which is the advantage of having 4 veteran players around him, which is why I think you could take that opportunity because it's not like Josh Lugg is super experienced playing center. He's experienced overall, but not playing center. Zeke Correll has a lot more practice snaps at center than Josh Lugg does. The third option is the one that I would look at.
This is the one that intrigues me, by the way.
Yes, and that is I would move Robert Hainsey inside to center for multiple reasons. And then I would insert Josh Lugg at right tackle. Number one, you'd be moving a very experienced, smart leader, 2-time captain into center, and Robert Hainsey. I think Robert Hainsey has the athleticism and the toughness and the body type to play center. I think center might even be where the NFL may want him down the road. So you're helping him. You're helping your football team because you have your best leader right there at center.
And he knows the calls. I mean, he
knows all the calls. He hasn't had to
offense.
make them, but he knows them. He knows how to study the opponent. I think there's that aspect to it. And now when you slide Josh Lugg in at right tackle, you've got 5 guys that have started a minimum of 5 games. Now, obviously, Robert Hainsey wouldn't have started at center before, but I do know for a fact that he has taken snaps before. He has snapped the ball before. So now, has he done it with Ian Book and those kind of things? Don't know, but I know he's worked on snapping because he's a smart kid and he's always thinking ahead. So I do think that's the more intriguing option. And the pushback I always get is, no, you don't want to do that because now you've impacted 2 positions. And that's not how you look at it. How you look at it is, what is the best group of 5 with what you have in front of you that you want to put out on the field? And if you have to impact 3 positions to get your best 5, then you impact 3 positions. That's just the reality. I mean, you do that. And so you'd have 5 veterans, and you'd have a veteran in a position at center that has a better temperament for the position than Josh Lugg, that has more athleticism, foot quickness in short space than Josh Lugg. You have someone that's better prepared to handle the calls than Josh Lugg. And now you've put Josh Lugg in a position where I think he can play better. So, Lugg now,
right tackle,
and he played well when he started 5 games in place of an injured Robert Hainsey last year at right tackle. When everybody talks about how great Notre Dame was down the stretch last year, well, who was the starting right tackle during that whole period? It was Josh Lugg.
Right.
So That to me is the more intriguing option. I'm very enticed by the notion of putting Zeke Correll there if he can handle it. And that's ultimately what I would do is I would have Hainsey cross-train. And if Zeke Correll proves himself capable, I'd start him. But if there's any hesitation, then I would have, okay, Robert, next week when we get to Tuesday practice, buddy, or Monday practice, you're it. You're our guy.
Right.
Because but I think the notion of having Correll there intrigues me because if he starts in the final 4, 5, 6 games, however many they play, and he handles himself well, you're going to lose Eichenberg, you're going to lose Hainsey, you're going to lose Kramer, you may lose Banks. So when Jarrett Patterson comes back, Jarrett Patterson, who was recruited to play left tackle, he comes back. Now you're in a position where you could maybe move him somewhere else because Zeke Correll's proven himself at center. So I do like the long-term option of that as well. So I think the Zeke Correll starting is option number 1. I think the more intriguing option for the immediate future is moving Robert Hainsey to center and then Lug there. I think that's the option I would probably go with unless Zeke Correll just steps up right away and says, I got this, which wouldn't surprise me because he's a very talented kid.
Well, you can put me in the Hainsey to center camp. I think that's the way they should go, but they don't ask me, and so we'll see what happens. But either way, it's going to be something that's fun to watch, and we'll see what happens.
And there's plenty of options. That's the big thing. There's plenty of options.
They've got options, and I think that no matter what option they go with, I think that offensive line is still going to be successful. Yep. It's just at what level of success will they be depending on which way they go. So thanks for joining us. That's a fun conversation, and we'll keep our eye out and look for some more videos like this because they'll be coming your way. We'll talk to you next time.